Elegies for the Dead in Cyrenaicia by Hamish Henderson. First elegy, end of a campaign. There are many dead in the British desert who lie uneasy among the scrub in this landscape of half-wit, stunted ill-will, for the dead land is insatiate and necrophilious. The sand is blowing about still, many who for various reasons or because of mere unanswerable compulsion came here, and fought among the clutching gravestones, shivered and sweated, cried out, suffered first, were stoically silent, cursed. The spittering machine guns were homesick for Europe, and fast embedded in the quicksand of Africa, agonized and died, and sleep now, sleep here, the sleep of the dust. There were our own, there were the others, their deaths were like their lives, human and animal. There were no gods and precious few heroes. What they regretted when they died had nothing to do with race and leader, realm indivisible, laboured Augustine's speeches or vague imperial heritage. They saw through that gulf before the axe fell. Their longing turned to the lost world, glimpsed in the memory of letters, an evening at the pictures in the friendly dark, two knowing conspirators smiling and whispering secrets, or else a family gathering in the homely kitchen, with mum so proud of her boys in uniform. Their thoughts trembled between moments of estrangement and ecstatic moments of reconciliation, and their desire crucified itself against the unutterable shadow of someone whose photo was in their wallets. Then death made his incision. There were our own, there were the others. Therefore, minding the great word of Glencoe's son, that we should not disfigure ourselves with villainy of hatred, and seeing that all have gone down like curs into anonymous silence, I will bear witness, for I knew the others, seeing that literal and inferior are alike indifferent, and the birds are drawn again to our welcoming north. Why should I not sing them, the dead, the innocent? Second elegy, I.C.A. for Luigi Castigliano. At dawn, under the concise razor-edge of the escarpment, the lagger sleeps. No petrol fires yet. Blow flame for brew up. Hope on the pass a sentry inhales his national. Horseshoe curve of the bay grows visible beneath him. He smokes and yawns, ooh-ah, in the limitless shabby lion pelt of the desert completes and rounds his limitless anew. At dawn, in the gathering impetus of day, the lagger sleeps, some restless prince's dream. First light denies them the luxury of nothing, but others, their mates more lucky, drown in the lightless grottos. Companionable death has lent them his ease for a moment. The dreamers remember a departure like a migration. They recall a landscape associated with warmth and veils and pantomime, but never focused exactly. The flopping curtain reveals scene shifters running with freshly painted incongruous sets. Here childhood's prairie garden looms like a pampas where grown-up stalk gross outlaws on legs of tree trunk, recedes and the stripitant's jungle dwindles to scruff of shrubs on a docile common, all but real for a moment, then gone. The sleepers turn. Gone, but still know nothing laves them. O misery, desire, desire, tightening cords of the bed-rack. Eros in the teeth of Yahweh in his tight-lipped sect, confound the deniers of their youth. Let war lie winded, Eros grant forgiveness and release, and return against which they erect it. The cairn of patience. No, dear, won't be long now. Keep fingers crossed, chin up. Keep smiling, darling. Be seeing you soon. On the horizon fires fluff now, further than they seem. Solemn and I.C.A. A while yet before we leave you in quiet and our needle swings north. The sleepers toss and turn before waking. They feel through their blankets the cold of the malevolent bomb-thumped desert, impartial, hostile to both. The lagger is one. Friends and enemies, haters and lovers, both sleep and dream. Third elegy. leaving the city. Morning after, get moving, cheerio, be seeing you when this party's over. Right driver, get weaving. The truck pulls out, along the corniche. We dismiss the terseness of a newsreel, the casino and the column. The scrofulous sellers of obscenity, the Garys, the girls, and the preposterous skyline. Leave them, and out past the stinking tanneries, the maritime Greek cafes, the wogs and the nets, drying among seaweed, through the periphery of the city, itching under flagrant sunshine. Faster! We are nearing the stretch leading to the Salt Lake Maratos. Sand now, and dust-choked fig trees. This is the road where convoys are ordered in case of ambush. A straight run through now to the coastal sector. One sudden thought wounds. It's a half hour over since we saw the last skirt, and for a moment we regret the woman. And the harbour, with a curve so perfect, it seems it was drawn with the museum's protractor. Past red-rimmed eye of the Salt Lake. So long then, holy filth of the living. We are going to the familiar filth of your negation, to rejoin the proletariat of the levelling death. Stripes are shed and ranks levelled in death's proletariat. They are the colonel of hussars, the keen sapper subaltern, with a first in economics, and the sergeant well known in international football, crouch with Jock and Jame in their holes like helots. Distinctions become vain, and former privileges quite pointless in that new situation. See our own and the opponent's advance meet and merge, the commingled columns lock, strain, disengage, and join issue with the dust. Do not regret that we have still in history to suffer, or comrade, that we are the agents of a dialectic that can destroy us. But like a man prepared, like a brave man, bid farewell to the city, and quickly move forward on the road leading west by the Salt Lake. Like a man for long prepared, like a brave man, like to the man who was worthy of such a city. Be glad that the case admits no other solution. Acknowledge with pride the clear imperative of action, and bid farewell to her, to Alexandria whom you are losing. And these advancing from the direction of solemn, swaddies and tropical kits, lifted in familiar vehicles. Are they mirage? Ourselves out of a mirror? No, they too leaving the plateau of Mamarica for the serpentine of the pass. They advancing towards us. Along the coast road are the others, the brothers in death's proletariat. They are our victims and betrayers, advancing by the seashore to the same assignation. We send them our greetings out of the mirror. Fourth Elegy, El Adem. So cold wind of the desert, embittered reflections on discomfort and protracted absence. Cold and resentment stirred at this seeming winter, most cruel reversal of seasons. The weather clogs fought. We give way to gripping and malicious ill turns, or instinctive actions, appearing without rhyme or reason. The lands connect, read mail, play scat, lie mute under great coats. We know that our minds are as slack and rootless as the tent pegs driven into cracks of limestone, and we feel the harm of inaction's erosion. We're uneasy, knowing ourselves to be nomads, impermanent guests on this bleak moon surface of dents and ridges, craters and depressions. Yet they make us theirs. We know it and abhor them. Vile free in one of the heretic desert, sand, rock and sky, and the soul wind whipping the face of a working or a dying unit, who shoulders his shovel with corpse obedience. The sons of man grow and go down in pain, they kneel for the load, and bow in brutes, in patience accepting the burden, the pain fort endure out of shattered Europe. Not even a shriek or a howl for its doomed children is heard through the nihilist wind voice. Tomorrow's victors survey with grief too profound for mere lamentation their own approaching defeat, while even the defeated await, dry-eyed, their ineluctable triumph. Cages are crammed, on guard crouch the fearful oppressors, and wait for their judgment day, therefore recollecting the ice-bound paths, and now this gap in the minefields, through which, from one side or the other, all must pass. Shall I not speak and condemn? Or must it always seem premature, the moment always at hand, and never arriving to use our rebellious anger for breaking the vicious fetters that bind us? Endure, endure. There is as yet no solution, and no shortcut, no escape, and no remedy, but our human iron. And this Egypt teaches us that mankind, put to the torment, can bear on their breast the stone tomb of immolation for millennia. The wind, we can build our cairn. Fifth Elegy, Highland Jebel, for John Lorne Campbell. Was ist es, das ein die Alten, sie legen küssten mich, versellt, dass ich schämer, lieb als mein eigenes Land, Hoelderlen. Our eyes, fatigued by the unsearchable deserts, more on monotony, lifted to the hills. Strong-winged, our homing memory held us, on an unerring course, soared, leaving behind it, in an instant camp, coastline and city, sea imbecile wasteland on the black Sierras, for a well-known house, if found the treeless Machir. Took in bay and snub headland, circled kirkyard and valley, and described once again our love's perfect circuit, till flying to its own, it dashed itself against the irresponsive windows. So we waited, and lifted our eyes to the hills, whence comes aid. In our ears a murmur of wind-borne battle, heron stalk over the blood-stained flats. Burning byres come to my mind, distance blurs. Motive and aim, dark moorland bleeding, for wrong or right. Sons of the hounds, come here and get flesh, search, bite. In what deep antry of death is there refuge from this living rock? Beyond the gate of the pass are a high and a low road, but neither is the road back. No low chain, they must lead us to the hauteur of battle, must array enroll us among listening cohorts, where both vaunting and atonement remain muffled forever. The caverns will number our momentary cries among the sounds and echoes of this Highlands millennial conflict, and never falls for Hector, again there. Aye, in spite of the houses lying cold, and the hatred that engendered the vileness that you know, we'll keep our assignation with the Grecian gale, and those others, then foregather in a gorge of the cloudy Jebel, older than Agamemnon, travelling light and making the most of the early coolness will come before morning, to the raw uplands, and then by evening greet you in the wilderness of your white corries, Cypherion. Interlude, opening of an offences, the waiting. Arming has foregathered, snuffling, through tourbillons of fine dust. The crews don't speak much, they've had last brew up before battle. The tawny deadland lies in a silence, not yet smashed by salvos. No sound reaches us from the African constellations. The low ridge too is quiet, but no fear we're sleeping, no need to remind us that the nervous fingers of the searchlights are nearly meeting and time is flickering, and this I think in a few minutes, while the whole power crouches for the spring. X20 in 30 seconds, then begin. B, the barrage. Let loose, rounds, the exultant, bounding hell-harrowing of sound. break the batteries, confound the damnable domination, slake the crashing breakers hurled rubble of the guns. Differing darkness will wake you, hell's bells blind you, be broken bleed death's head blackness. The thongs of the livid firelights lick you, jagged splinters rend you underground, will bomb you, doom you, tomb you into graves mounds. See the jocks. They move forward into no man's land, a vibrant sounding board. As they advance, the guns push further murderous music. Is this all they will hear, this raucous apocalypse? The spheres knocking in the night of heaven, the drummeling of overwhelming Niagara. No, for I can hear it. Or is it? Tell me that I can hear it. Now listen. Yes, hill and shealing, sea loch and island, hear it, the yell of your war pipes scaling sounds mountains. Guns thunder drowning in their soaring swell. The barrage gulfs them, they're gulfed in the clumbering guns. Gulfed in gloom, gloom, dumb in the blunderbuss, black, lost, gone in the anonymous cataract of noise. Now again, the shrill war song, it flaunts, aggression to the sullen desert. It mounts, its scream tops the Valkyrie, tops the colossal artillery, meaning that many German fascists will not be going home, meaning that many will die, doomed in their false dream. Will Max Sicker against the bashing cudgel, against the contemptuous triumphs of the big battalions, Max Sicker against the monkish adepts of total war, against the oppressed oppressors, Max Sicker against the leeching lies, against the worked-out systems of sick perversion, Max Sicker against the executioner, against the tyrannous myth and the real terror. Max Sicker. Part 2. Na siúbh mardh an goléige bheas, fodrúm rúmhfisit. Gélog sa halógan sios, mithe gúrith, sa thuair gréisian. Smarin miéir a cuairt sa hanach, a fuair bhó thuair. Fíomh tútain an raón an air, Gúnéirich dúilh, ge bhí a dún san nó a theas, a níl seontas nó miúran. Tria dó nocht I toilach ath na blas, fodrúm rúmhfisit. Sornley MacLean. Sixth Elegy, Acroma. Planning and execution recede the preliminary inertia, the exception, the lull, the relaxing and the encounter's suddenness recede, become history, thrusts, sieges and feints, that still blood maps with arrows, they left dead like refuse. These are the basis of battle studies, and we're no better. The lying films contain greater truth than most of our memories, and the participants, staff officers, consider, discuss and record their provisional verdicts. These were go-getters, professional outflankers, capable assault troops or specialists in night warfare, while those others had guts and lacked training, yet put up a decent enough show at Haimimat or Munasab. Occasionally there are doubts. Dispute becomes acriminatus. The case is not proven. Judgment must be deferred. On one point, however, there is unanimity. Their sacrifice, though hard and heroic, was on the whole necessary. I too have acquiesced in this evasion, that the unlucky or the destined might inevitably fall, and be impaled on the basalt pinnacles of darkness. Yet how can I shame them, saying that they have died for us? That was expedient. A generation should die for the people. To justify them, what byways must I follow? Into what inaccessible sierras of naked acceptance, where mere reason cannot live, where love shines like a glacier. Could I ever attain it? Neither by dope of repertoire nor by anodyne of statistics is their lot made easier. Laughing couples at the tea dance ignore their memory, the memoirs almost slight them, and a queue forming up to see Rangers play Celtic forms up, fought at those dead. Oh, to write them, what requiem can I sing in the ears of the living? No blab out their sacrifice, rather tears or reviling of the time that took them, than an insult so outrageous. All barriers are down, in the criss-crossed enclosures, where most lie now assembled in their aching solitude. Those others lie too, who were also the sacrificed of history's great rains, of the destructive transitions. This one beach where high seas have disgorged them like flotsam reveals in its nakedness their ultimate alliance. So the words that I have looked for and must go on looking for are words of whole love, which can slowly gain the power to reconcile and heal. Other words would be pointless. Seventh Elegy. 7 Good Germans. The track running between Machilly and Timimi was at one time a kind of no man's land. British patrolling was energetic, and there was numerous brushes with German and Italian elements. El Eleba lies about halfway down along this track. Of the Swadis who came to the desert with Rommel, there were few who had heard or would hear of El Eleba. They recce'd or acted as medical orderlies, or patched up their tanks in the camouflaged workshops, and never gave a thought to a place like El Eleba. To get there, you drive into the blue, take a bearing and head for Damol. Then you're there, and where are you? Still, of some few who did cross our path at El Eleba, there are 7 who bide under their standing crosses. The first, a lieutenant, when the medicos passed him for service overseas, he had jotted in a notebook, "To the die and the hour keep me steadfast. There is only the decision and the will, the rest has no importance." The second, a corporal. He had been in the Legion, and had got one more chance to redeem his lost honour. What he said was, "Listen here, I'm fed up with your griping. If you want extra rations, go get 'em from Tommy. You're green, that's your trouble. Dodge the column, pass the buck, and scrounge all you can. That's our law in the Legion. You know Tommy's got 'em. He's got mineral waters, and beer, and fresh fruit in that white crinkly paper, and God knows what all. Well, what's holding you back? Are you windy or what? Christ, you old Afrikaners. If you're wanting the eats, go and get 'em from Tommy." The third had been a farmhand in the March of Silesia, and had come to the desert as fresh fodder for machine guns. His dates are inscribed on the files and on the crosspiece. The fourth was a lance-jack. He had trusted in Adolf while working as a chemist in the suburb of Spandau. His loves were his cello and the woman he had borne him 2 daughters and a son. He had faith in the Endsieg, that the new Reich may live, prayed the fly-leaf of his Bible. The fifth, a mechanic. All the honour and glory, the siege of Tobruk and the conquest of Cairo, meant as much to that Boch as the synod of Whitby. Being wise to all this, he had one single headache, which was how to get back to his sweetheart called Ilse. He had said, "Can't the Tommy wake up and get weaving? If he tried, he could put our whole corps in the bag. May God damn this Libya and both its palm trees." The sixth was a Pole, or to you, a Volksdeutscher, who had put off his nation to serve in the Wehrmacht. He seek-heiled and talked of the dirty Polacken, and said what he'd do if he let loose among Ruskies. His mates thought that just a Polnischer Schreven hound. He was not a bad bloke. On the morning concerned, he was driving a truck with mail, petrol, and rations. The MP on duty shouted 5 words of warning. He nodded, laughed, revved, and drove straight for El Elba, not having quite got the chap's Styrian lingo. The 7th, a young swaddie, riding cramped in a lorry to death along the road with winds eastward to I.C.A. He had written 3 verses in appeal against his sentence, which softened for an hour the anger of Lenin. 7 poor bastards dead in African deadlands, tawny tousled hair under the issue blanket. Wie einst Lily, dead in African deadlands. Einst Lily Marlene. Eighth Elegy, Karnak. Lakel to Bardiganze Welt hinaus. Surely it is a holiday or a day of national thanksgiving. Observe the king, as he offers up the spoils of Syria to Osiris. No doubt he is acknowledging the conclusion of some war to preserve civilization. Insolence of this civilization to counterfeit with such assurance the eternal. Yes, here among the shambles of Karnak, it is Volendung, unknown to the restless Greeks. Here, not in Elis and Olympia, are Edel Einfalt und still gross. They bore many children, but their triumphal bark of civilization was weighed down with a heavy ballast of magnetic death. There is the Schrijverpunkt, not here, there across the river that made it all possible. The dead were taken across death. Listen to the waves of the flowing cymbal, lisping death, were taken to temporary slumber, and were introduced with courtesy to Osiris and the immortal Macabre company. But the envious desert held at arm's length for millennia had its own way at last. In the name of Mohammed, the nomads conquered, though not for the first time. It had happened before, as is the confounding way of history, when the shepherd kings Yaqub and Yusuf, heavy breathing in the hairy gutturals, stood incredulously in the courts of Ammon. They looked down their noses at the phallic men and took up stones against impassive Osiris. Not of them hot chorus or the clerkish Toph, not of them the complacence on the lips of Pharaoh, not of them the capitals of lotus and papyrus. Those who go a-whoring after death will assuredly find it, be sealed in, confined to their waste palaces, and Karnak the temple be stalls for the nomads. Puff of dust on the blurred horizon means the imminent approach of the solution. Of subjection, deliverance, these horsemen are merciful. They bring the craved annihilation. These are my servants, the Assyrians. These the necessary antithesis. These the standard bearers of the superb blasphemy, felling gods, levelling cities. Death, life, grappling with life, death, severing the umbilical cord of history. These are the trampling of migrations of peoples. The horsemen of Amr, the barbarians of Cavaphy, of Rommel, before the gates of Alexandria, but still, in utter silence, from bas-relief and painted tomb, the civilization asserts its stylized, timeless effrontery. Synthesis is implicit in Rilke's single column, Die Ein, denying fate, the stone mask of Volendung, deaf to tar-bushed dragoman who deep-throatedly extols it. Yes, pinned with paint to walls, deep in stone carved, they cannot resent the usurper. They fix and hold motionless. Protracted moment of fire, a transitionary aeon. The sunboat travels through the hours of darkness, and Ra mounts heavenwards his chosen path. What will happen during this day? Will the king's vizier find time to be present at his public function? Will silly girls fight among the stooks? Will a sailor be beaten for insubordination? Is the harvest home yet? Will stewards be computing in the household office the extent of their surplus? Will patient labourers work the shadow? Is fruit on the branch? And will ripe pomegranates be shipped down to Thebes? Will rough Greeks land on Pharos? Will prisoners of war drive the shaft for a tomb? Is scaffolding up? Will the subsidized craftsmen work diligently still on their couple of colossi, all masters of chisel its calculated cutting? Are Bedouin herds moving up from the south? Will it be a feast day? Will the smooth priests in well-bottomed robes process between the sphinxes? Detesters of the disk, possessors of the mystery, shrewd guardians of the vested interests of Ammon. Where will the king be? Out boating for his pleasure, while his boat shears through the Nile reeds. He aims at wild fowl with a boomerang. Can he be sure of bringing home a bag? No doubt the court will see to it, being solicitous. In the evening he will return to Thebes in his state chariot, with the music of many instruments. To his fellaheen, a vision of flower-strewn godheads, the scourge and the crook under the sycamore leaves of life. Of life, O unheeding, the long ambiguous shadow, thrown on overweening temple by the ever, the recurrent, the bearded, the killer in the rhythmical tragedy, the heir, the stranger. Welcome, O Hussein, when you enter Karbala. Ninth Elegy for Capuzzo. For there will come a day when the Lord will say, Close order. One evening breaking a jeep journey at Capuzzo, I noticed a soldier as he entered the cemetery and stood looking at the grave of a fallen enemy. Then I understood the meaning of the hard word pietas, a word unfamiliar to the newsreel commentator, as well as to the pimp, the informer, and the traitor. His thought was like this. Here's another good Jerry, poor mucker, just 18. Must be hard up for manpower, or else he volunteered. Silly bastard. That's the fatal mistake. Never volunteer for nothing. I wonder how he died. Just as well it was him, though, and not one of our chaps. Yes, the only good Jerry, as they say, is your sort, chum. Cheerio, you poor bastard. Don't be late on parade when the Lord calls close order. Keep waiting for the angels. Keep listening for Rivali. 10th Elegy. The Frontier. One must die because one knows them, die of their smiles' ineffable blossom, die of their light hands. But dust blowing round them has stopped up their ears, oh, forever, not sleeping but dead. The airliner's passengers, crossing without effort the confines of wired-off Libya, remember little regretless, if they idly inspect from their windows the ennui of limestone desert, and beneath them, their skimming shadow, they'll be certain, they've seen it, they've seen all, maybe, including the lunar Kotaras, the wadis like family trees, the frontier passes with their toy shop spirals. Seen nothing and seen all, and the scene yields them nothing. Yet that coastline could yield much. There were recces and sorties, drum fire and sieges. The outposts lay here, there ran the supply route forgotten, but that bend of Halfaya, the convoys used to stick raw meat for the Jabos, and here the bay's horseshoe, how nobly it clanged through laconic communiques. Still, how should this interest the airborne travellers, being less real to them than the Trojan defence works? and touching them as little as I.C.A strategies, useless to deny. The memorials, obsequious. Falsehoods are irrelevant. It has little to arrest them. Survivors by accident. That dried blood in the sangars. So I turn aside in the benighted dead land to perform a duty, noting an outlying grave, or restoring a fallen crosspiece, remembrancer, and shall sing them who amnestied escaped from the tumult to stumble across sand dunes, and darken their waves in the sea, the deliverer, run, stumble and fall in their instant of agony, past burnt-out Brennpunkt, along hang-dog Dunnart, here gutted or stuck through the throat like Broan County, are charred to grey ash, they are caught in one coral. We fly from their scorn, that they close all the passes, there sleeps our unrest, we lie bound in their inferno. This alliance must be vaunted and affirmed, lest they condemn us. Lean seedlings of lament spring like swordsmen around us. The coronach scales white aretes, bitter keening of women goes up by the solitary column. Denounce and condemn, either build for the living love, patience, and power to absolve these tormented, or else choke in the folds of their black-edged vendetta. Run, stumble, and fall in our desert of failure, impaled, unappeased, and inhabit that desert of canyon and dream till we carry to the living blood fire and red flambeau of death's proletariat. Take iron in your arms, at least spanning this history's Apollyon chasm. Proclaim them the reconciled. Heroic song for the runners of Cyrene, to Gregorio Prieto. Without suffering and death one learns nothing. We should not know the difference between the visions of the intellect and the facts. Only those ideas are acceptable that hold through suffering and death. Life is that which leaps. Dennis Saurat, Death and the Dreamer. The runners who would challenge the rough bounds of the desert and strip for the test in this barbarous arena must have sinews like hounds and be cunning as Jerboas. Rooting crowds will not hail them in boisterous circus, nor sleek fame crown their exploit with triumphant obelisk. Sun beats their path down the hours of blank silence. Each knows that in the end he'll be lucky to have respite. Freely they'll run to the chosen assignation, ineluctable role, and they ready to accept it. Going with elan of pride to the furious onset, they'll reclaim the dead land for their city of Cyrene. Sun beats their path. There's no course measured plainly between markers on the beach, no event for the novice. The gates open or closed, and the track leads them forward. Hard by Salt Lake and Standing Stone, blind as the Cyclops, while keeping the same pace, neither slower nor faster, but as yet out of sight behind plateau and escarpment, is history the doppelganger, running to meet them. Stroke of the sun means the hour that's to lay them, is present once more on the dust-blurred horizon. They start and awake from their stupor of rhythm, and think as they catch glimpse of sea beyond watchtower, they cannot be far from a place they'd forgotten. At last it is sure, they know that they'll never be hesitant feet on the marches of darkness, or humped epigoinoi, outliving the fiends. No matter what hand stirs the dust, questions gently with curious touch the grazed stones of the city. Yon stroke of the sun vaunts their exploit forever. They quicken their pace, and those others too, faster and livelier now than at jousts of the topo. The goal is in sight, simultaneously the onrush. The clash close at hand, incarnate dialectic. The runners gain speed as they hail their opponents. They can hear in the air the strum of loud arrows, which predestined to sing to their point of intersection. Blaze of harsh day stuns their human defiance. Steel beats their path with its pendulum brilliance. Sun's fong is lifted, and history ever emerges at last from the heat's trembling mirror. Their rune upon them, they've entered the lip of the burning enclosure. Each runs to achieve without pause or evasion. His instant of nothing, they look for an opening, grip, grapple, jerk, sway, and fall locking like lovers down the thunderous cataract of day. Cyrene, 1942. Carradale, Argyll, 1947. Notes: the quotations used to introduce the two parts of the cycle need perhaps a word. Letters. I find your poems give a voice to all the, for me, quite inarticulate feelings one had in the desert. The sort of feeling I got, for example, on first hearing Lily Marlene, and that it was the song of the Africa Corps. The song seemed to me one of the most tragic I had heard, wholly appropriate to a doomed army bumping along in their trucks in the desert. The desert you describe. I still can't express what I mean, but your poems do it for me. I will treasure the book as a reminder of great events which we both experienced, and to which you give great expression. Lord Maclean Campbell, V.C., 29th January 1949. I also proffer you some heavy advice, which I hope you will take as carefully considered and deeply felt. Not dismiss as Marxist phrasemongering, but that is not the essential thing. I greet you with humility, compagno, for you are that rare man, a poet. You have achieved poems out of our dead century. I hope you have had bad reviews from the culture boys, because their approval today is cause only for shame. But you must remain a poet. Remember always who you are writing for. The people of Glasgow, of Halifax, of Dublin. I don't mean always today, or for all of them, but for the vanguard of the people, the most thoughtful ones. You will know Mayakovsky's reflections on the difficulty of writing big poetry, poetry genuinely created, which can be understood by the people. I think this is your greatest danger, and you must never let yourself, by the possible insensitivity or even hostility of those who should be your greatest allies, be driven into the arms of the culture boys who appreciate pretentiousness and posturing. They would kill your writing, because you, more than any other poet I know, are an instrument through which thousands of others can become articulate. And you must not forget that your songs and ballads are not trivialities. They are quite as important as the elegies.